Today, I would like to take a little bit more of a personal storytelling of my own journey through advertising and to design thinking. I believe that I have one of the most amazing jobs in the world. I belong to a company called IDEO, which is a design and innovation consultancy. And we are a relatively small company, as you can see, only about 700 people globally and only about a 40 years history. But while we are a very, very small company, we do believe that we have a very, very big ambition and also have quite a disproportionate impact in the world globally. So we are often recognized both by our clients and also by media as one of the most innovative companies in the world that promotes very progressive thinkings that help solve both business but also social issues. So while I call myself a designer, I didn't come from a classic design background. In fact, I came from the world of Wall Street. I had a degree in finance. I graduated from New York University School of Finance, and it prepared me for a world of high finance and business. While I really appreciated a lot of the skill sets that I learned, I personally felt that it wasn't the right platform for me because I knew that I wanted to pursue much more creative or innovative tools and skill sets to make bigger impact in the world. So with that, I took my first big leap and actually entered the world of advertising. So I was an advertising strategist for many, many years and working on from very big companies like Ogilvy, but also from very progressive companies like Wieden & Kennedy. So I worked on Nike, Procter & Gamble, a lot of different very meaningful companies. And one thing that I really appreciate about advertising is that it creates very meaningful conversations with brands and their consumers. And when done well, it really has the power to shift the mindsets, the behaviors, of both the companies as well as popular culture and the consumers. But over my many years in advertising, the one thing that I've realized is that advertising can be characterized in two character traits. First of all, advertising is characterized by having a lot of solutions and tools based on communication. And this communication can take many, many forms. It can be a wonderful television commercial that really brings to life the product or the brand. It can be a print ad that you see outdoors or in a magazine. It can be a really wonderful content strategy or social media strategy. But as we all know, in a very complicated world, it often takes much more holistic or diversified tools to serve and solve business problems. The second character trait that I realized was that as an advertiser, I was very valued and recognized as a specialist at the end of the business funnel. And when I mean at the end of the business funnel, I'm talking about where it's go-to-market strategy, where it's about creative execution, where it's about a deep understanding of consumer and popular culture. And that is our great value to companies. But often the challenges and questions that I wanted to solve were very much upfront, where it requires the thinking and conversations about business, brand strategy, product offering, organizational design, retail, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I also then took another second big leap in my career and left the world of advertising. And looking back, that was about 4 years ago. I think it was a very, very timely time because, as we all know, we are entering a new normal, both globally, but especially here in China, where nothing is taken for granted, and the world is a much more complex and complicated world to solve. And I would say that there are two particular traits about that and shifts that are really fundamental to my learnings. The first shift is really the overabundance of goods and services available everywhere. And particularly in China, we're talking about competition not just from your natural competition, like within food and beverage, et cetera, but also often from cross-category or cross-industry competition. And perhaps one of the most recent examples of that is what happens when one of the globally most powerful smartphone companies enters the world of real estate. What does that mean for the world of real estate? And as you all know, Xiaomi has now announced its investment, 100 million renminbi investment in U+, which is only just the start of its long-term strategy to get into low-cost rental services as well. So these are very exciting times for companies, but also very, very scary times for companies. Coupled with that fact is, as you all know, there is a very different consumer landscape. the consumers now have very different attitudes and expectations. Whether it's 80后, whether it's 90后, whether globally, whether you call it millennial, they all have a very fundamental, much more active consumerism. In the past, it was very passive. They were very willing to accept whatever was bought and sold and whatever was told about them. Now they fundamentally want to know very, very deeply what your brand and business does, why it does it, and also importantly, how it does it. And so these leads obviously to a much more complex and comprehensive, again, need to solve problems in a different way. So with that, I've managed to leave the world of advertising quite a few years and find my way into IDEO. One of the fundamental tenets or philosophies of IDEO is the belief in design thinking. And so while we're known as a design company, it's really, that's our roots, but it's really design thinking as a fundamental philosophy and approach that helps solve a wide range of business problems. Design thinking is really a holistic approach to problem solving, and it really is characterized in three main buckets. First of all, desirability, and understanding what are the fundamental needs and unmet needs that are really at the heart of the issue. So not just understanding what products you are there to sell, but also what type of products and opportunities lie as untapped from the consumer landscape. The second is the viability. What is the business strategy and the business model and financing that underpins a very successful, viable model? We need to understand how those, how that is solved that leads to both the company success, but also the new offering and product and servicing success. The third is feasibility, and that goes to our roots of product design and industrial design, where we have a fundamental empathy for the actual technology, whether it's hardware, whether it's software, digital, online, offline. So whether it's a company going into a new offering or spinning off into a new venture, these are all new organizational changes and designs that we have to play a role in. And it's in that intersection of all three circles that leads to breakthrough innovation. But I've recognized in my time in advertising that you really truly need to have internally as well as in your ecosystem a cross-disciplinary team. And this is through this very powerful mix of collaboration that only can you tackle those three big circles that I mentioned. So just within IDEO itself, we have people like me that have a brand and advertising background, to people who have a management consulting finance background like that are called business designers, to people with deep academic or commercial research experience called human factors specialists, to digital strategists, e-commerce strategists, product, mechanical engineering, communication designers, etc. Beyond that, we also often need to have deep specialists in industries like architects, like food scientists, like doctors. And because of that, we have managed to prove time and time again that it is through this holistic, collaborative, multidisciplinary thinking that has allowed us to create holistic systems and designs. And this often plays a role in new brands, new products, digital services, organizational systems, new business models and ventures, both from increasingly the startup and new venture world to also very, very traditional FMCG companies. So I'd like to share with you two examples of when I've done it, both on a very massive commercial scale, but also from a very intimate social scale. One of the recent projects that I worked on was helping a new venture tackle one of the biggest issues, as you know, in China, the food safety in China. So this venture is characterized as a restaurant and a retail grocery that offers both farm-to-table offering. And we mean farm-to-table as in they own their own farm produce and they offer it in their retail. And one of the nicest, wonderful expressions of that is, if you see on the right, is just a simple billboard that explains every month the change in the percentage of their own farm vegetables that they offer on sale. And this really goes to the heart of that food safety issue, where it's about tackling transparency and trust in the ecosystem. So these are just snapshots of some of the key designs that we worked on, starting again with the business and brand strategy, to the business model and what type of business model do we want to work on. Is it a pure retail model? Is it a restaurant and retail model? Which markets do we go after first tier, second tier? Where does the market trend? Down to the food prototyping, that's where we brought in food designers and food scientists from our global offices to come in and help prototype with us. So it was all these comprehensive solutions that we're proud to say that have managed to launch successfully the restaurant venture late last year called Hunter Gatherer. It has been quite a big success for us, both in both the trade, in the media, and also importantly from the consumers and the company. So moving from, as we said, a very big, complex commercial project to something very intimate and very meaningful on a social scale. And this just happened 2 weeks ago. So this is very, very fresh off the news. So I'm proud to share it here with you guys as well. So me and a bunch of designers worked with Yinong. Yinong is part of Deng Fei, which is a very, very famous social entrepreneur here in China. And their mission is very simply to help the financial stability and inclusion and sustainability of rural farmers, as you see here in China. And what IDEO's mission was to help find Yinong's new ways to grow. So the first conversation that started two weeks ago was quite a simple thing. It was about launching a new product, and particularly around the new product packaging, which would tell the new story. We launched this challenge on an open platform out into social media. And we launched 2 challenges over the course of just 5 days on Weibo, where we told the story of what we want to launch, which is a very meaningful story of this cold tea product called Hancha, which only grows in a very specific cold region in Hunan. And we wanted to celebrate and really encourage the consumers to stand behind the product because this is a very, very meaningful product. And to do that, we wanted to even do pre-awareness and make sure that the consumers really got a chance to be a part of the brand, starting from the creation itself. So over a course of just 5 days, we reached about 1.2 million views on Weibo, and around over 550 conversations and discussions, and about over 80 very, very high quality designs and contributions from the community. And so the designs were really, really shocked us and were really high quality, and it really spoke to a bigger need, a bigger desire in China, in the community to really use design to solve very complex and very meaningful problems. And we've done this globally. We have different business units in the world. We have Open IDEO, which is an open platform where crowdsources the community's questions and solutions to solve business problems or social problems. And on average, we usually get about 100 responses over a course of 3 weeks. But to get over 80 responses in a course of 5 days was unprecedented for us and gave us a lot of hope and a lot of meaning for moving forward. And quite simply, the design is about understanding how to use the packaging story to rotate from a design perspective and cover different aspects, meaningful stories about how this product and company has created this tea. Kunge is the tea farmer owner who was part of this process over in Hunan. And he was talking about how there's a new increased life into the product where it really embodies the philosophy of Chinese Yi, both from a simple perspective that changes but also doesn't change us. And for us, this is really stuff that really makes us feel passionate about continuing to drive that on a social impactful scale. So, in summary, I hope this has been a meaningful discussion and share about my own personal journey.